My name is Sirifan. I'm 76 years old, and I want to begin tonight not with wisdom, but with a confession. For most of my life, I looked for healing in the wrong places. Not because I wasn't sincere in my search, I was desperately sincere, but because I had a fundamental misunderstanding about where healing actually lives. I looked for it in the right people, in the right relationships, in the right circumstances being finally arranged in a way that would stop the pain. I looked for it in external things that I believed, if I could only obtain them or fix them or have them finally cooperate with my needs, would make the broken feeling go away. And nothing worked, not completely, not permanently, because I was looking outside for something that existed only inside. And this single mistake cost me decades of reaching toward healing while unknowingly moving away from the only place it could actually be found. The Buddhist tradition I have lived inside for 30 years does not teach healing as something that happens to you. It teaches healing as something that happens through you, through your own awareness, your own compassion, your own willingness to sit with what is difficult long enough for it to begin to change. The keys I want to share with you tonight are not quick fixes. They are not techniques that will resolve everything overnight. They are invitations into a different relationship with yourself, with your suffering, with the capacity that already exists within you to transform both. And that capacity is not something you have to develop. It is something you have to remember, something you have to stop burying under the belief that you need something from outside before you can be okay. The first key is the most fundamental and the most easily dismissed. Sit with what hurts without immediately trying to fix it. This sounds simple. It is one of the most difficult things a human being can do, because our entire relationship with pain is oriented toward escape, toward relief, toward making the discomfort stop as quickly as possible. And this orientation, while completely understandable, keeps us in a particular kind of trap, because what we resist persists, what we flee from follows, and what we cannot sit with continues to control us from the underground where we have buried it. The first Buddhist key is not fixing, it is allowing. Allowing the pain to be present, allowing yourself to feel it without the additional suffering of fighting the fact that you feel it. And in that allowing, something begins to shift. Not the pain itself, not immediately, but your relationship to it. And changing your relationship to pain is the beginning of healing. The second key builds on the first. You are not your pain. This is perhaps the most important thing the Buddhist tradition offers anyone who is suffering. The direct and liberating recognition that what you experience is not what you are. That the grief moving through you is not you. That the fear, the shame, the wound, the loss, these are all events occurring in your awareness. They are not your identity. They are not permanent features of who you are. They are weather, arising and passing in the vastness of what you actually are, which is the awareness itself, the sky that holds all weather without being changed by any of it. When you begin to experience yourself as the awareness rather than as the content of the awareness, the content changes. Not because you change it, because you stop feeding it with the belief that it defines you. The third key is one that surprises people when they first encounter it. Healing is not the absence of pain. It is the presence of compassion toward your pain. We have been taught, most of us, to measure our healing by whether we still hurt. But this measure is wrong. Hurt is part of being alive, part of loving, part of caring about anything in a world where everything changes and loss is inevitable. Healing is not arriving at a place where nothing hurts anymore. It is arriving at a place where you can be with what hurts without being destroyed by it, where you can feel the loss without collapsing, where you can carry the grief with enough spaciousness around it that it doesn't consume everything else. And the key to arriving at that place is compassion, self-compassion. The simple and radical act of treating your own suffering with the same kindness you would offer someone you loved. The fourth key is about the body. Healing lives in the body, not just in the mind. The Buddhist tradition has always understood what modern science is now confirming, that trauma, grief, pain of all kinds is held in the physical body, in the tension that never releases, in the breath that never fully expands, in the places that are permanently guarded against a hurt that happened a long time ago. Healing that stays only in the mind, that remains only intellectual understanding, is incomplete. Real healing requires bringing awareness into the body, into the places that are held. Not to force them open, not to demand that they release on your schedule, but to bring the gentle light of attention to them, to let them know through your presence with them that they do not need to keep guarding, that the danger is past, that they can begin slowly and in their own time to soften. The fifth key is about the relationship between healing and honesty. You cannot heal what you will not acknowledge. This sounds obvious, but the ways we avoid acknowledging our own suffering are subtle and deeply practiced. We minimize. We compare our pain to worse pain and conclude ours doesn't count. We perform okayness so convincingly that we begin to believe our own performance. We stay so busy that there's never a quiet moment when the truth could surface. And all of this avoidance has a cost. The unacknowledged pain does not go away. It goes underground. And underground, in the dark, without the light of conscious attention, it shapes everything. Your decisions, your relationships, your capacity for intimacy, your ability to trust. The fifth key is simply to tell yourself the truth about what you are actually carrying. Not to someone else necessarily, to yourself. in the privacy of your own awareness, to say, this hurt me, this still hurts, I am carrying this. And that acknowledgement, that simple and courageous act of seeing what is actually there, is where real healing begins to be possible. If something in these words is reaching a place in you that recognizes it, a place that has been waiting for exactly this kind of honesty, then stay close to this space. Come back when you need reminding, because healing is not linear. It circles back. It visits places you thought you had left behind. And having somewhere to return to, a voice that understands, matters more than most people realize. The sixth key is perhaps the most counterintuitive. Suffering is not a mistake, it is information. The Buddhist tradition does not teach that we should not suffer. It teaches that we should understand our suffering, that the pain points to something, to a place where our relationship with reality has fractured, where our expectations have collided with what is, where something we loved or needed or counted on has proven impermanent, and that the wound, understood rather than escaped, becomes a doorway. Not a pleasant doorway, but a real one, leading somewhere essential that comfort could never have taken you. The seventh key is about impermanence. Everything passes, not as a consolation, as a fact. The pain you are carrying right now, the weight that feels permanent, is not permanent. Nothing is. The Buddhist understanding of impermanence is not pessimistic, it is liberating. Because if everything passes, then this passes too. The grief will not always be this acute. The wound will not always be this open. The weight will not always be this heavy. Not because you will forget or stop caring, but because everything, including suffering, moves, changes, transforms into something that is easier to carry. This is not a promise about a timeline. It is a truth about the nature of things. And holding that truth, even lightly, even on the days when it seems impossible to believe, is itself a healing practice. The eighth key is about what you do with your attention. Healing attention is different from wound-picking attention. There is a difference between the awareness that sees suffering clearly and compassionately and the mental habit of returning to suffering compulsively, turning it over, examining it from every angle, picking at it. One of these is healing. The other is a way of staying connected to a pain in a way that prevents it from passing. Learning to distinguish between the two, to notice when your attention is sitting with your pain versus when it is feeding it, is a subtle but essential skill. Healing attention is soft, open, present. It sees the pain without grabbing it. Wound-picking attention is tense, repetitive. It returns to the same place over and over in a way that provides a kind of uncomfortable comfort, the familiar quality of a suffering you know. Learning to move from one to the other is something that happens gradually, with practice, with patience, with the willingness to notice what your attention is actually doing. The 9th key is about the role of other people in your healing. You cannot heal in complete isolation. The wound that happened in relationship needs some part of its healing to happen in relationship too. Not necessarily with the person who caused the wound, with someone who can witness your truth without flinching, without trying to fix it or minimize it or rush you through it. Someone in whose presence you can be where you actually are and feel safe enough to let that be seen. This does not have to be a therapist, though a therapist can be this. It can be a friend, a teacher, a community, a voice that speaks to you honestly through whatever distance separates you. The healing that happens when you feel genuinely seen in your suffering is different from any healing that happens in private. Both are necessary, but the witnessed healing goes somewhere deeper. The 10th key is the one that holds all the others. Trust the process even when you cannot see the progress. Healing does not announce itself. It does not arrive on schedule. It does not present you with evidence of its work in ways that are easy to measure. You will have days when you feel worse than you did a month ago, and you will wonder if anything is working. And on those days which will come, the practice is trust. Not blind trust, not the pretense that everything is fine. The grounded trust that comes from having seen, in even small ways, that the practice works. That sitting with pain instead of fleeing has led somewhere. That the compassion you have practiced has made something softer. That the honesty you have brought to your own suffering has made it more bearable. Trust built on even the smallest evidence is enough to carry you through the days when you can't see the progress. And the progress is always there, slow, underground, real, moving in the direction of a wholeness that has always been available, that has always been you, under everything you thought was missing. My name is Siripan. I'm 76 years old. I live in a small temple where healing is understood not as the end of suffering, but as the transformation of your relationship to it. Where the 10 keys I have shared tonight are not secrets, they are practices, daily, imperfect, ongoing practices that I return to again and again because they work. Not perfectly, not all at once, but truly, in the direction of a life that feels more genuinely inhabited, more honestly lived, more fully yours. The healing you are looking for is not somewhere out there waiting for the right conditions. It is here, in you, accessed through the keys that have always been available, waiting only for you to use them. Before we part, I want to ask you something real. Which of these 10 keys feels most necessary for you right now? Not most interesting, most necessary. The one that if you began practicing it tomorrow, might begin to shift something that has felt stuck for a long time. Tell me in the comments, because naming it is often the first act of the healing itself.